Welcome to Paranormal or Reality. On today's video, we investigate some horrifying encounters with a Ouija board. We have started a new podcast that combines multiple videos. If you prefer listening to longer videos, the link will be in the description. Now let's begin. When I was about a year into high school or so, around 1997, I was playing with my friend's Ouija board at her house. We were in her room being kids, playing around with her board. I was pretty open-minded about it, if anything, not necessarily a believer or disbeliever. This was for the simple fact that I had nothing to go on with, no experiences or anything to push me to either conclusion. Since one cannot prove a negative, the only real negatives against the paranormal was evidence of things against the paranormal. These were those events which could be explained as something else. When we were in her room, we got the box out and immediately went to town, chanting like idiots and doing all kinds of movie stuff to get spirits to communicate with us. I always thought that there may be some secret instructions in the box, telling the owner to burn the instructions after reading the line, telling them to be the ones moving the planchette when friends come over without taunting. We got a lot of seemingly benign contacts that I didn't really believe at the time, until one of them proved themselves. We asked it to give us a sign, like they do in the movies, and not even a second later, her hamster slams into the inside of its cage and seemed startled as it recovered. It started running around its cage and under the shavings, then popping back up. This all was happening like it was in danger, as if a hawk was flying above. I figured it was just a coincidence, and we went outside after a little while. We opened the board again, but this time we had a pencil and paper. After many questions, I needed more proof, so I told the spirit to write its name with my hand, holding the pencil. I closed my eyes and turned my head up. To my great surprise and shock, the word Z-O-Z-O was written on the paper. The weird thing about this is that I had never heard the name before in my life, nor had I really known what was going on. I also just thought it could simply be some kind of subconscious thing going on. Let me tell you, when my arm was moving, it did not feel like someone was grabbing it. It felt like just the muscles required to move the pencil were tingling or somehow light or numb. I assumed maybe that ghosts just communicate through noisy channels, or maybe it was a misspelling or something lost in transmission. About 2 years ago, I hadn't talked to my longtime friend about this experience, so we reminisced about it. I decided to Google the name Zozo, and of course the correct spelling of it came up Ouija Zozo as the first result, so I clicked on it. I have to admit that as a grown man, I do not get scared easily, but seeing the sheer amount of people who experienced contact with this entity sent the densest goosebumps throughout my skin, and more than I thought possible. This series of very uncoordinated, temporally spaced out, and geographically separated events is just way too precise to be coincidence or some kind of mass hallucination. It was also very unlikely that this was a subconscious muscle twitching, as stated before, since it was experienced by people hundreds of miles away from one another. Had I heard about this before the event, I could understand that it could be my mind playing tricks on me through power of suggestion. I'm here to tell you to not listen to those saying it's just a game made with cardboard and plastic. This story happened when I was 18 years old. I'm 24 now, and to this day, it's still hard for me to talk about. I'm still fearful of telling the story because it's terrifying. The only other time I had ever even touched a Ouija board was when I was about 8 or 9, and I was playing with my aunt. I'm positive that she was the one who moved the planchette, because she has since admitted to me that she was just joking around with me. This particular night, a group of friends thought that we should try a Ouija board. It was close to Halloween, and we all thought, let's do it. We lit candles and did the whole thing. We started asking questions and such for about 10 or 15 minutes but got no response. We were all ready to give up at that point, but then one of my friends said, "We invite all spirits to contact us." Everything changed after that. The planchette started to move around almost like it was charged. What made it real for me were the questions I asked, followed by the answers I received. No one in that group would have known the answers to my questions, and they were all correct. The planchette kept moving back and forth to Zito, 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 over and over again. We tried to say goodbye. We all had to literally force the planchette down to goodbye. We were all freaked out, but put the board away and went about our night. After we all went to sleep, I had a dream. You could almost say that it was an out-of-body experience. In this dream, I awoke in my room, kind of floated through my house. Everything throughout my home was the same, including the pictures on the walls, all of my mom's little trinkets on the shelves, down to every single detail, it was the same. I started floating towards the front door, then through the front door. At the end of our walkway was a tall, black winged figure with long, talon-like fingers. No matter how hard I tried, I kept getting closer and closer to the thing. Then finally, when I met it, I took on its perspective. Now, I was looking at my house, floating towards it this time. When inside everything was untouched, just as it had been moments earlier. Then I floated towards my parents' bedroom. I was standing at the end of their bed, watching them sleep. Then towards my sister's room. Then at the foot of her bed, watching her sleep. Finally, we went to my own bedroom door. But as soon as I got to my own door, I woke up. Interesting enough, it was 3 a.m. I tried to shake it off and go back to sleep. The next morning I was scared as hell because of the dream the night before. This happened a few more times. The demon at the end of the walkway, parents' room, sister's room, my bedroom door. Wake up at 3 a.m. Fast forward to about 3 or 4 weeks since using the board, some friends and I rented a lake house for the weekend. We get down there, and the first night I have the same dream. But this time, it was the house we were renting. I saw my friend sleeping when I got to the door to the room I was sleeping in. I wake up and it's 3 a.m. I was totally spooked. At this point, I had no idea what to do, so I finally spoke up to my youth pastors. They picked me up with the board and took me to their home where we prayed. Then took the board and threw it away in a random dumpster, banishing this demon from my life. I had high hopes that this would work. Needless to say, it didn't. The dreams continued, despite my best efforts. I tried to anoint my house with holy anointing oil. I would say scripture throughout my house, putting the armor of God on my home and my family. Nothing worked until about a year later when my parents divorced, and we moved homes. About a year after we moved, my mom, sister, and I were sitting talking together when my sister randomly asks if I ever felt uneasy at our old house or if I ever saw anything that scared me. I told her everything about the dreams, how they would happen over and over again, about what I saw, so on. She lost all color from her face and said, "I saw that thing at the foot of my bed starting at me, watching me sleep. Instant chills all over my body." The three of us said a very powerful prayer and finally banished this demon from our lives, never to return again. I never found out exactly which demon was tormenting me, but I'm not really sure I want to. I will never ever touch a Ouija board again, neither should you. I was 5, and my brothers were 14 and 18 when this happened, 1970. My then 18-year-old brother was interested in the occult and searching for more meaning in his life. They each received a Ouija board by Milton Bradley for Christmas that year. They busted that thing out and went to town. Even at 5, I thought this was a no-brainer. Later on, I was able to see the damage they cause. After the first few times they used it, we immediately saw entities flitting back and forth all around the house. I saw one in the shape of an adolescent boy running up and down our staircase. Doors slamming at all times, day or night. I'd be sitting and watching Looney Tunes when an invisible hand would wrap around my upper arm, and I'd feel it squeeze its fingers into my flesh quite hard. I went into the kitchen where my mother was making dinner. I told her about it. She checked my arm and noticed that whatever that was left red finger marks. Not in the direction of my own hand, to be sure, as I didn't do it myself. She looked a bit alarmed. The following day there were bruises. My mother checked. She didn't like what she saw. Then I heard footsteps on the wooden floor at night walking toward me. If I was asleep, I was awakened by a very raspy voice in my ear. I could feel hot breath on my ear. No one physically was there. I had horrible nightmares. My brothers also had similar experiences. That thing was just a beast, an angry beast. It took a couple of years for us to rid the house of this angry thing. My good friend wanted to experiment with the Ouija board. I gave her one of the Ouija boards, having dismissed the issues we had before. My friend had an entity that hadn't had a physical life since the medieval times. Long story short, she had an issue. After she'd lit a candle to talk to this disembodied soul, her blouse caught fire and burned her breast. She didn't tell her mother about it, as her mother was a very strict Catholic from Spain. She covered her burn in vitamin E and gauze, then hoped for the best. That was the last of it. I was 12. I never touched another Ouija board again, nor did I ever let my daughters bring one into the house. The year was 2000. Our all-girls school trip to a hill station was a whirlwind of excitement. 3 nights, 4 days, packed with sightseeing and cultural events. On the first evening, a fun-filled program kept most of us entertained. 3 classmates, however, opted to skip it due to travel fatigue. The second night, after a day of exploration, we huddled in our room, 8 of us. Spooky stories, a staple of school outings, filled the air. Laughter and goosebumps danced in the flickering lamplight as the clock struck 3 a.m. before we finally drifted off to sleep. Around 4 a.m., a chilling sound shattered the silence. Short, periodic bursts of laughter. It was Mary, the resident prankster. But something was off. Her laughter lacked its usual warmth, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. We thought it was a joke, but a slap on the arm from Stacy didn't faze her. The laughter morphed into rapid-fire gasps. By 4:30 a.m., our bed began to vibrate violently. Panic surged. Was someone having a seizure? We saw the flicking on the light when we witnessed a horrifying sight. Mary's body contorted in unnatural tremors. Little Pam bravely reached out to comfort her, but Mary lunged, teeth bared. We scrambled to pull Pam back as Mary, in a frenzy, tore into the mattress, leaving a smear of blood. The convulsions subsided, leaving her collapsed, eyes rolled back. Fear, cold and suffocating, gripped us. We alerted our teachers and the school principal, a revered nun. They rushed in and offered prayers, blessing the room. Mary, drained but peaceful, slept deeply. Later, the principal questioned us about the night's events. We confessed to the ghost stories. Shockingly, the 3 girls who missed the cultural program revealed a secret: a Ouija board session. They'd used a chart paper and summoned a spirit that wouldn't leave. After much pleading, they managed to send it back, but perhaps it lingered. Notably, Mary was sleeping on the exact spot where the board had been placed. The next day, Mary awoke with a fever, oblivious to the night's horrors. The incident left an indelible mark on us, a chilling reminder of the unseen forces that sometimes lurk in the shadows. Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.